Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Colin Hunter. Colin is the CEO of PotentialSquared, an international firm that specializes in creating playgrounds to disrupt the way people are led. He is the author of a new book coming out later this year called Be More Wrong: How Failure Makes You an Outstanding Leader. The power of controlled failure was an important lesson I learned as a young submarine officer. I'm really excited to have Colin on the show to get into this important topic. So, Colin, welcome.
John, appreciate it. Thank you for having me on the show. Looking forward to our conversation.
I am as well. So, first of all, before we get started, tell us about PotentialSquared. It sounds like you take a really unique approach to leadership training and development.
Yeah, that's the goal of PotentialSquared, John. So what we've been trying to do is, and in fact, when we were naming it, we called it PotentialSquared, and somebody said, so why don't you call it Potential Cubed? Why not Potential Cubed at the time? And I said, so look, we're going to under-promise and over-deliver. So the principle behind what we do is a degree of humility. It's a degree of practicing with our clients and exploring with our clients how we can disrupt how people are led. So therefore, our partnership with our clients and our partnership with ourselves around this is to explore new ways of leading, and new ways plus old ways. So I'm a big fan of some of the older principles of leadership that have been around for many, many years. And for example, communication, third level listening is all there. But what we're trying to do is find a different way to connect, firstly with the leaders, but also with the changing workforces that are out there. So that's what we do on a global level. We work in different cultures as well, which is fascinating to put a cultural lens on leadership and work with that. And we also work with actors. We work with VR. So the channels of delivery in PotentialSquared are very different, and clients will know us for one thing and not the other thing. So it is it's a real rich mixture, which is what keeps me motivated and engaged as I lead it.
Well, that sounds great. One of the things that when I was reading about it, you talk about using virtual reality actors, you use data, but then you also use this concept called a playground. So how does that all play together to, really help leaders understand their true behaviors and habits and be a better and more effective leader?
I think that they're all inextricably linked. So when we, about 2007, John, I was with a previous business partner at the time. And one of the things that came to my mind was we weren't practicing what we preached. And therefore we started to think, so we demerged. The previous business partner went off and she's still operating a very successful business elsewhere. But my whole principle then started to say, so how do we practice what we preach within the leadership space? We were already using actors, which was great. So we were using actors to bring to life conversations, to give people an immersive experience in terms of conversations. So if you just think about the toughest conversation you've had, potentially in the submarine, I have no clue what it would be like to be in a submarine for that length of time and to be in such a confined space and have those difficult conversations. But wouldn't it be great to be able to practice those difficult conversations? And I mean, you used to do drills, other things in there. That was your playground to get people ready for when the real thing hit. You were working in there. So we use the actors to allow leaders to have a way of immersive experience around conversations. And we'll tie it as much as possible to the work that they do. So if they're internal auditors, we'll get the actors to be auditees in a business who have, got a report, an audit report that's coming in. If it's to do with customer service, we'll get the actors to play guest clients, whether it's luxury hotels, and therefore they can play that. So imagine if you're walking along a hotel corridor and you're in Gleneagles Hotel in Scotland. Training people how to have that conversation means we put an actor in place and we just play with the different types. So over friendly, under friendly, friendly, just the right amount. Service, but not over formal service. How do you get the formal and informal? So we use the actors, and then we started to think, okay, on this leadership side, and you'll know this. I mean, it's if you look at a dashboard as a leader, how do I measure the systems? Whether it's skills, technical, whatever it is you're trying to measure, how do I have a drop down. I always think about Top Gun. I had the pleasure of meeting a lady whose son was a Top Gun instructor.
Wow.
And she was telling me about, they fly for an hour and then they do 10 hours of debrief. But in that hour, they've got a drop down eyesight which they can read how the plane's doing, what they're doing. So wouldn't it be great for a leader to be able to say, so I tweak this behavior, this habit, and how did it impact? So over the last 4 or 5 years now, we've been building up to a couple of awards with clients where we've taken the leadership development measurement system and put it into something we call PI2, Potential Impact Squared. And we've worked into that. And then finally, to answer your question around VR, we discovered through networks this VR tool called Apollo, which is run by a company called Jensen 8. And what was amazing is suddenly this story about the immersive experience with the actors, you're putting VR on. And the amazing thing about VR is when you're immersed, there's nothing else that you are seeing apart from this. And it's your true behavior comes. I mean, I screwed up so many times, John, when I put that VR headset on. I was just failing miserably. But actually, what I was realizing was it was exactly my behavior. I could see the patterns, but that was within half an hour. I'd got the pattern of my behavior. Now, doing that with clients now, we're finding within half an hour, even within 8 minutes, people are going, yeah, I do that all the time. Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
So that's where we are with it. So that's how we mesh them all together. And depending on the client, we mesh different parts of it to help them to work.
That is really interesting. I really put the parallels to, being back on the submarine. One of the things that we did, you can imagine every time the submarine came back from sea, you'd have a third of the crew leave and you'd have brand new people show up, right?
Yeah.
And then you went back out on patrol where you have 30% new people who don't know the way we do things. And so one of the things really important was training and drills. And we tried to simulate it as realistic as we could, flooding, fire, reactor emergencies. And we were immersed, right, in these training scenarios, and we practiced over and over and over again, and we learned and we made mistakes along the way. And one of the things that I'll never forget is the emotion that you have from making a mistake. And how deep a training tool it is when you make a mistake and you try to figure out how to correct it. It's deeply personal, right? And so those you remember those lessons probably deeper. Is that what you find with your clients as you go through these immersive training programs? Is they make the mistake and then they feel that emotional response to it?
Yeah, and I'd link it to something personally for myself. And the more I talk about this, the more I realize this is out there everywhere. I have an imposter syndrome. So I'm expecting myself to fail. I'm expecting not to be interesting. I'm expecting people to find me whatever it is that I'm thinking that day. And therefore, what we find is that when people are in that space and they failed, they go to the negative. They go and they find, oh, hold on a second. So our moment with them is to find a way. And I love the video where a cellist is playing and he makes a mistake in the middle of the playing. And the person who's coaching him says, rather than being negative about that mistake, almost in a jazz way, relish that mistake. You found just a different way to play.
Right.
So by encouraging people in a safe space, and I think the key thing is safe. I mean, if you're in the middle of battle, I can't even imagine. I've got friends who are ex-special forces, and when things are going wrong around you, it's not a safe space. But they, like yourself, will have drilled, practiced. They've been in Norway in the mountains. They will have been in deserts. They will have been in jungles. They would have been preparing for these moments, all prepared for their spontaneity session, as a way that we would say it. And therefore, the failure, what we've got to do is get people to understand that failure, if we're stretching ourselves, then there's going to be a degree of stress, but stress plus rest equals growth. As you know, there's a peak performance book out, which I love. So we would say stretch plus rest equals growth. And therefore, you're going to make mistakes if you're stretching. That's what we believe. Yeah.
Right. Excellent. I love that. So, you mentioned that, well, I guess we really covered it, but failure is one of the core ingredients of learning fast, right? And I think you talk about it in your new book. And by the way, the new book is called Be More Wrong: How Failure Makes You an Outstanding Leader. So, why is it so important to fail early, fail often, and I like the term fail forward?
Yeah, no, I can't take credit for that one. The fail forward was actually Will Smith. Out of
Yeah,
all the people in the world, he would
right,
say fail forward,
right.
it's linked to purpose,
It is.
and therefore when the whole book is of Be More Wrong is written through a hero's journey.
Mm.
And every hero's journey, whether it's, I'm a big fan of Lord of the Rings, and I'm either turning off half the audience when I speak about it, or other people are going, oh wow, I'm going to listen. It's about Lord of the Rings. It's
Right.
Frodo and Sam are suddenly going to come in, and then we say Harry Potter and Dumbledore, and oh okay. So whatever story it is, the story of the hero is always one that they leave the home, they're surrounded, or they grab together the group of people with them. They go off and they have a quest to destroy the ring. They have a guide. The guide is the leader in this
Mm.
context. And then they go off and face good and evil, and they're going to fail. If they are going to achieve something significant in their lives, they're going to fail. And at that point, it's about how they deal with a failure. So Be More Wrong is written in a hero's journey. It's an iterative, cyclical story, which allows people to feel that they understand now that failure is going to be part of being success in the future. And therefore, it's not just the first time they fail, it's about the 10th time. But they're small enough experiments and small enough failures not to cause them careers, not
Mm.
to kill people or to bankrupt themselves. It's small incremental experiments, which Frodo and Sam did as they went through Lord of the Rings, with Gollum and everybody else that was involved in that
Right.
story.
Right.
Everybody made small failures, but they learned from them. Yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned the hero's journey. I think that's really important in our lives and our careers, right? I mean, if we think about all these great stories and great movies, the hero always faces adversity, right, and has
Mm.
to overcome some major challenge. And I think for an audience, that makes that character more unique, right?
Yeah.
Having been through these difficult things and having overcome them, and we we find ourselves much more attached to the main character when they're going through this. And I always think that that's important in our lives as well as we go through those tough times, those challenges, those failures. Um, we become a more interesting character. We have, sort of the scars of life that really build up who we are, and I think of the toughest times that I've ever faced in my career are those important moments in my life that I think back on now. If I overcame that, I can overcome this. It's a great moment in your life that you can always tie back to, that says that I can overcome whatever comes in front of me because I've overcome this already.
And I also think it's encouraging for others, John. I mean, if you think about the movies and the films, one of the principles of the book is the unlikely leader.
Mm.
Whether it's the senior people I coach who just have imposter syndrome, they don't believe that they should be where they are, or they can't believe they've got to where they are, or that they're responsible for all these people. But it's also the characters in Harry Potter. Neville Longbottom is the person who, in the end,
Mm. Yeah.
is the big hero. He's the unlikely hero.
Mm.
So there's this principle in the hero's journey, is that by being a leader, by being a guide, by creating stories for heroes, other people get involved and engaged. And this is about culture, isn't it? I mean, to
Mm.
gain a culture where people see others role modeling and they suddenly go, oh, it's okay to have a go here, it's okay to fail. You
Mm.
get these. We were once recruiting or helping to assess a whole chemicals plant, and the person who was the successful one, who came to head the whole plant, was only 2 levels up from the bottom of that organization and had been hidden in a laboratory at the
Yeah.
bottom. But by giving him his opportunity, he suddenly realized he had the opportunity to grow, ran the plant. And his first challenge he had to face was actually this plant's byproduct was cyanide. And somebody died from an accident.
Mm.
And so, can
Wow.
you imagine
Yeah.
being promoted from there to the higher levels, and then suddenly facing that? But he showed his true colors, and in that moment, everybody saw what a leader he was. That's the unlikely leader story that I just love.
Mm. I do as well. That's really
Yeah.
neat. So I really like what you have to say here. You say workplace culture should be more like a classroom and less like a classroom and more like a playground. And one of the things I spent 22 years in corporate America, is I saw that we have very little tolerance we're making mistakes, right? Everything, we're busy, everything has to be performed at a high level, and nobody has time for mistakes, and there's very little tolerance for mistakes. Whereas when I think about my military career, we were doing mistakes all the time in a
Yeah.
controlled manner to be able to learn, to be able to practice, to be able to get those experiences so that we would be ready when when the real things happen. So, so my question is, talk a little bit about that, how, culture should be more like a playground than a classroom. And what are some companies that are doing it right or you've seen do right?
Yeah, so I mean, the companies for me that are really one of them we work with. So I've got to, I'll put
Yeah.
the disclaimer up. So Accenture is one of the ones who does it very
Mm,
well, but they do it in a very controlled way. So we run something with them called Greenhouse. Now, if you think about a greenhouse, hot housing, it's a 5-month program where we've been running for years, this program. But over the last 4 years, we've totally disrupted the way this program is run. But it's run through design thinking. It's run through action learning groups. So pockets of 5, 6 people. What we do is we put coaches in who are then managers of those people.
mm,
And we then put senior folk in above them as non-exec directors, or NEDs as we call them, above there. And so we start to craft this experience where we're trying to shift the culture of Accenture. And Accenture are a very innovative company anyway, but when it becomes to the behavior, they're very processed in what they do. So what we're trying to shift is that more junior person coaching, design thinking, and they head towards what in America would be a Shark Tank,
mm,
investors marketplace, where they're pitching ideas. And all the while they're iterating, they're making mistakes, they're trying, they're experimenting, they're prototyping. And it's in a safe space because it's not with a client, although a lot of the projects are about clients. And there was this classic moment where somebody had an idea for a new labeling system. Now, Accenture aren't known for labeling systems, but a lot of their clients have a sustainability issue with labeling, or whatever the product issue that they have. And they had in 5 months, they would be able to work up a new $2 million business within there. But it was only honed on the last day. So all the skills they'd got in 5 months, they went to an investors marketplace. The first round on the first day, the idea was given tough feedback by the first investor. Second investor came in. By that time, they'd iterated the idea. Third
mm.
investor came in, they'd iterated the idea. By the time they pitched it, they won. And they had a battle, and I love this. They had a battle between investors in that space going, we
Ah,
want, we want this. No, we want this. I'll pay you more.
I love it.
But but that's the moment where you suddenly realize that an Accenture of this world, but even, take a Goldman Sachs, we worked with them on design thinking, and they were looking to get a 5 billion increase in there. And they knew that they couldn't do that from what they've been doing every day for the last 3-4 years. So we worked with them on design thinking. We had communication skills coming in from another side. But we also had an element of diversity and inclusion, because their biggest thing
Mm,
for bankers, for financial services, is relating to the new type of client and customer coming through, who is not your suited and booted. They're
mm,
the people who are
right.
coming from a different space. So there's another example where we partner with them, but they took accountability for shifting the way they look at their client base and offering something different. So
Mm.
it's possible. Whatever you do, it's possible to do it.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah, I was, I had an example the other day. It was Friday.
Mhm.
I run a manufacturing business, and it was Friday, and our last product was just built. It was put on the pallet, ready. It was all done. And I had walked out on the shop floor, and I looked at my most senior person, and I was like, why don't we get it weighed, wrapped up, shrunk wrapped, and let's get it out there. We can shut down for the day.
Mhm.
And he looked at me and he said, you know what? Let's let Parker do it. Parker's our newest employee,
Nice.
and give him that chance to learn. And my
Mhm.
first reaction was, hey, we got to get this done. We can't make a mistake. It
Yeah.
has to, like we're trying to get home and get everybody out the door, right? But
Mhm.
he sort of reminded me that it's about learning, and it's about trial and error, and it's about practice, and about being a classroom, as you say. And
Yeah.
and it was like my employee reminding me that give people a chance. And I think one thing that I see happen in corporate America is we give our tough assignments to our more senior people because we
Yeah.
don't want to have mistakes.
Mhm.
Whereas we really need to get the more junior people, the people coming up, to have those experiences, to try those things, so they do have those learning experiences, but also in a controlled manner. Like we were there monitoring Parker, and Parker did a great job, and he
Yep.
learned. But I think giving people those opportunities to learn in a controlled manner, and even fail it possibly. But I think we don't do that enough, right? And I don't even do that. Even somebody who preaches this stuff, I
Oh
found
no.
myself saying, "Oh, hurry up, let's get this done correctly, get it out the door." It's fun. It's
Yeah.
funny that I found myself not practicing what I preach. And
I'm with you, John. I mean, I
yeah,
think to be humble as a leader is important, and to make it realize that you make mistakes. So I'm a control freak, and I
mm,
make the joke that if you take the control out the control freak, all you've got is the freak. So there is a
true.
degree that I am coming to this part where if I lose control, and I'm doing
Mm,
a course on positive intelligence at the moment, which I love. Um, and my top two saboteurs in my life, which are the voices loudest, one is restless. And I
mm,
always justify my restless to say, oh, bright, shiny object. It's great. It's fresh. We're experimenting.
right,
Yeah, my team are back at the office going, oh no, he's coming back with some new
right,
ideas. I
right,
thought we just landed this. And the
right.
controller is the control freak. So,
Mm,
but if I want to grow and I want to become, as I want to, the ex-CEO of Potential Squared and move on and grow, I've got to get out of my own way as a leader. So
yes.
therefore, I've got to experiment. I've got to give the opportunity. We just promoted 2 junior people in our organization to senior levels. It was through something we weren't expecting, but they've risen to this, and I'm excited. I'm nervous though, John,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm excited that I'm going to see the next generation of Potential Square be run by these brilliant people. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it is. I think we do have to let go, and I think I'm the same way. I mean, this is my baby, this is my company, right? I
Yeah.
birthed it, and I want to see it succeed, right?
Yeah.
So there is an element that you want to control it, but then you have to let go, and you have to, because I think the biggest reason that a lot of small companies never get to be big companies is that the founder doesn't let go and doesn't allow others to rise up and take over. They hold on to too much, for too long, and I'm
Yeah.
trying not to be that way. So,
No, I assume it's the same when you go back to your submarine days. That we used to have an expression which is, "I'm holding onto the agenda too tightly,"
mm,
and as a leader, you can hold it gently, softly. And as an ex golfer, I was always told I was holding the club too tightly. It's the same in
yeah,
leadership.
yeah,
To grow, and in the submarines, it's probably the same. There's an instinct and there's an intuitive nature that you've got to flow with what you're doing, where you're going, and therefore by holding on too tightly, you don't allow the organization to flow or your own mind. To go back to one of my biggest friends, Jamie Smart's book Clarity, he would say, fall out your thinking, your best ideas happen. Same idea. Yeah, same
mm,
principles. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I like that.
Mm.
So in some of the things I was reading, I really like what you talked about, and that was this idea of authenticity as leaders. You say that leaders shouldn't be afraid to bring their own type of quirky, flawed, natural personality and energy to their leadership. What do you mean by that? Because I really like that. That really resonated
Mhm.
with me when I read that.
I think it's many different things for me. And I think this is through my coaching experiences. I've worked with so many people who have just this amazing passion, but when they go to work, it's almost at the door, they leave their true personality behind. It's almost,
Yeah,
and you can see physically, verbally, people talking to themselves before they go in, or they do their tie up, or they'll
yeah,
do something. They put their face on,
yeah,
their game face on. And the trouble is that people read through that and see that. And as a leader, if I am having a bad day and I don't call it, it's like I'm really having a bad day. I am grumpy as hell. My daughter was hilarious the other morning. I took her to the station, and I was having a go at her about, have you got your train ticket? Because if you step on the train, you need a train ticket. And
right.
I was in that mode of and I was tired. And I suddenly, she got out and she said, I've done this before, Dad. Slammed the door, got on the train. And I texted her and I said, I'm really sorry for being grumpy. But unless you're able to
Yeah,
know that you're grumpy, to know that you have those moments, but it's not to stop them, because that's your human nature.
right,
But
right.
if my whole body is driven by a desire to achieve, to experiment, to grow, let people know it. Let people also know about the downsides of that. But if we're then saying, right, before I go into work, I'm going to shut off this playground because it's not appropriate. I'm going
Right.
to shut off this opinionated person because I've been told to shut up before. Firstly, it takes us more energy to do that
It
than you could
does.
use.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it probably, I would ask you the question, because in the military, there's a degree of the personality coming in there. How does that fit? Because in certain circumstances, you almost don't want the quirkiness, or do you? I'd been interested from your
So,
side.
that's actually one advantage I had. The military is sort of very diverse, and what
Mm,
I served on was a very unique environment.
mm,
Whereas you had 150 guys in a metal tube for 3 months at a time. So we actually sort of embraced the weird, if you will. I mean, we knew each other deeply. We knew our personalities. There wasn't no act. It was leadership was a 24/7 business. We couldn't go home at the end of the day. We couldn't take a vacation day if you were having a bad day. You were 24/7 in that space. And not only that, the leaders and the workers, if you will, the officers and the enlisted and senior enlisted, we worked in tight spaces together, not
yeah.
separate. Like, you
Mm,
see in corporate America, you see the guys in the corner office up here where they've got maybe their own cafeteria and life is good, own parking spots, and you have the people in the factory down here that that don't have those luxuries, and so we're separated, right? We weren't
yeah.
separated; we were all together, and
Yeah.
I think we embraced each other's unique personality. And I think
Love it.
what I write about is that leadership is a people business, and it's about embracing the uniqueness of every individual. And as leader, you have to try to find how one person's personality is going to fit within a role, and trying to make that fit is a really important thing. So yeah, I think that's why I liked it, because I think I really do. I like the idea of just embracing people for who they are and trying to
Yeah.
help them be the best version of themselves possible.
Mm,
And so I think that's
yeah.
why I like that concept of just being authentic. But I can tell you, in corporate America,
Well,
22 years, I was buttoned down. I was, as a vice president, general manager, I had to act a certain way and be a certain way, but I try as much as I could to bring my personality to it. But there was a lot of it that I turned off just to be able to be safe in that, environment. And it's
yeah.
and it's sad, actually. So
It is sad, and I think it's also about where organizations recruit from as well. Because
mm,
one of the things I've learned. So the guy I've just promoted in the business, I met because he delivered me a hire car, and the way he
mm,
delivered that hire car was exceptional. I met my COO on a beach in Singapore. We dived off a boat. I had beers in my pocket, and we dived off with another person sat on the beach. And so there's something about the downtime of somebody
yes,
where you catch them where they're in that moment, where they're
yes,
being true, which will tell you how successful they're going to be. And everybody can put their game face on, put their suit on, and do something for a short space of time. But as you're saying, in a submarine 24/7, you would see it immediately. Yeah, I love it.
yeah. There was no separation. I think that's yeah, I think that part about it really resonated, and it's stayed with me over the years. And I would
Mm,
say this, as an entrepreneur having my own company, what's 100% unique, and I bring my personality to the job every day, and it's funny, it's quirky, we laugh, we
mm.
cry, we're more of a family than we are a company, and that's the way I like to lead. That's what I really love about having my own company and doing it on my own. So and it
I'm
feels it
with
feels
you on
almost
that.
free when I left corporate America. It's free. So
Yes, I call myself a corporate refugee. Actually, that's what I call myself, because
yes,
I when I had a dog, and when we first set up the company, the dog was in the office with me, and I know you've got
right.
your dogs there. And the dog, actually, I remember one assessment center, somebody was very, very nervous, and they sat stroking the dog to calm the nerves.
Mm,
But Jazz was a member of the company, so why
yeah,
wouldn't my daughters used to come in and sit in the evenings after
yeah,
school and come to
yeah.
know? It's got to be that way to be successful. That's my view. Yeah,
Yeah, I think it makes it completely different. I think a different environment. So
it does. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned in today's work environment, there's got to be three critical dimensions to every leader. What are those three?
So it's confidence, conviction, connection. And I learned this from working with an ex-special forces guy,
Mm,
and he gave me this mantra in there, which is, it's almost like a zone of control that a leader is in. But we all know you can't control. No
right.
plan survives first contact with the enemy.
With you, yeah.
So the first thing is confidence, and the confidence is the physicality and vocality. And I do joke and I tell this story so regularly, but I got off a plane once and there was 10 of us who followed this gentleman who got off the plane, and he walked with this amazing confidence. So we all thought, he knows where he's going, we're going to head. And it was only when he walked into the restroom that we suddenly realized we didn't need to go. But that confidence as a leader is important. I also believe, though, introverted confidence, that confidence to hold a space, is important in there. So it's not just the external, but it's the physicality of holding that space and confidence. So confidence is the first one. Conviction, for me, we've just been talking about it, is values. So having the values and leading with your values, not trying to adapt your values to the values of a business or somebody said, take Enron's values. You know what happened to Enron? I'm an ex-Anderson's person. So having your own values and laying them out, but then recruiting difference in that conviction. So confidence, conviction is the values, allowing difference in it, not just for the sake of inclusion, but because different views help us. Different ways.
Absolutely.
We've just been talking about it. But the final one, which I think is the most important, is the ability to be all prepared for your spontaneity session, which is connection. So to be agile in the moment. Now, some people will see this as the ability to hold a connection with an audience, with your team, no matter what. But I always put it down to a gentleman who actually lived not far away from you, Randy Taylor. And he was involved with bringing the Presbyterian Church of the North and South America together. He just had this ability to listen, connect, and engage with his worst critic, the person he violently disagreed with, to the person whose views were equal to him. And I have a vision of him sat in a rocking chair in Montreat with a pipe in his mouth. And he just had that ability to hold court, hold conversations, and connect with anybody who walked into his world. There was never a bad word said against, but he got stuff done. So that connection is really, really important at the end.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good stuff. I really like that. So confidence, conviction, and connections. Very good. Well, how can people find out more about your company and your new book? And by the way, when is the new book coming out?
So 21st of September, 21. Okay. So 21, we thought 21 is a good way. But it's also the anniversary of the day that I dived off the boat with my COO. So it's just auspicious that it is that. So that's when it's launched. They can find out about it at a website, BeMoreWrong.com. Very simple, BeMoreWrong.com. It's on Instagram, BeMoreWrong. Twitter as well, BeMoreWrong. So you can find anything there. Happy to get in contact with people or connect with people. That would be great. And then for PotentialSquared, it's potential and then the number 2, the digit 2.com. And you can find out all about the VR and the fabulous thing that the team around the globe deliver for people. So any of the ports, they can find us.
Okay, that's great. We'll put those links in the show notes so people can find it. And those that are in their car right now listening don't have to write it down. It'll be simple to find it after the episode's over. So this has been really good, Colin. And the book is Be More Wrong: How Failure Makes You an Outstanding Leader. And I think you touched on a lot of things today that we really can take away. And I really appreciate you being on here. And I really think that your company takes a really unique approach to training and development. I think I'd love to see more companies embrace the idea of having a playground and having those safe opportunities to make mistakes and really learn from it. I know that for me, it was a powerful way to learn as a young officer in the Navy. And I don't do it enough in my workforce. So I really need to try to allow more opportunities for people to try and fail, even in controlled manner. And I think that they will learn more from those opportunities and give them that. I think you said, I think in somewhere you're writing, give them a soft landing so they can learn from those things and be able to take those lessons from them.
It might not feel soft to them at the time, John. That's the only thing. So coaching and mentoring is a key part of that. I've learned that through my time. I've landed with what I thought was a very hard landing, and my boss has said, "No, that's soft. You just learned early."
Right. I love it.
Yeah, brilliant.
Well, this has been really good, and I appreciate you being on the show.
John, it's been a real pleasure. Enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
You too. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.